Why hello everyone, I'm Steven from Tostemac and it's time for another autism vlog. You know, I've actually been taking some time to look back at all the vlogs I've done in the past, and a thought occurred to me. While I've done autism vlogs talking about obstacles and challenges that autistics have to face, I've never done an autism vlog where I've talked about the positive traits of autism, the gifts that you get from having autism. I mean, yeah, I've hinted at it here and there, but I've never done a full vlog talking about the positive traits. Maybe it's time to rectify that. So, for today's autism vlog, we will be going over 10 positive traits of autism. But before we get too deep into talking about the positive traits of autism, there are two things that I'd like for you guys to know. Number one is the list I'm going over is something that's been published on a website. I'll leave a link in the description down below for you guys to check out for yourselves. And number two is you gotta remember that each autistic individual is an individual. No two are going to be exactly the same. What may apply to one individual might not apply to some others. So, while keeping those two in mind, let's get to it. Positive trait about autism number one. Autistic people rarely lie. That's because most of the time we usually suck at it. Or at least, I suck at it anyway. No, seriously, me trying to lie to someone is the equivalent of George Washington cutting down the cherry tree, turning around, looking at his father, and then blaming it on his pet goldfish. It's not exactly a story that's going to hold any merit. The so-called art of lying involves having a calm posture, keeping a good poker face as they call it, and making a good story that has very few contradictions. It's just too much work to tell one little lie and whatnot. So for us, honesty is not only the best moral way, it's also the most simple way too. Just saves us a headache for later. Positive trait about autism number two. People living on the autism spectrum live in the moment. Whereas many neurotypicals may be distracted by social cues or random chit chat or wherever else is going on in the background, we tend to stay focused on the task at hand. We have a set mission to do wherever we're going. We go out to fulfill said mission, and that's about it. Just get to point A to point B while not getting in any distractions in between. So what do I mean by this? Let me try to come up with an example, shall we? You may recall the collab video I did with Quick Hacker as we discussed a video game character Symmetra having autism. And if you haven't had the chance to see it, I'll leave a video link in the description down below. You should totally check it out, it's awesome. So there's a certain comic book page in the Overwatch comic book where Symmetra notices that a picture frame is uneven, a little bit crooked. But instead of waiting for the right time to jump into the conversation that's going on, or try to say, excuse me, or something like that, she just goes over and adjusts the picture frame so it's nice and even again. No distractions, no extra steps needed, just get to point A to point B, then boom, you're done. Positive trait about autism number three. People with autism rarely judge others. Whether you're fat or skinny, rich or poor, it doesn't really matter to us. For us, what matters is who you are and maybe what are some things that you like, rather than what you have or where you've come from and whatnot. You see, the idea behind prejudice and judging people by their appearance or where they came from, it's not really something that comes natural. That is something that is taught to the autistics by the environment around them. Prejudice is not a part of who we are, or rather it shouldn't be a part of who we are. We should be able to accept other people for who they are rather than what they have or where they came from. Positive trait about autism number four. Autistic people are passionate. It doesn't really matter what we're passionate about or what other people think of said subject. We care about it 100%. Which personally I think is kind of lost in this day and age, where a bunch of people look at the news talking about certain politicians or people dying and whatnot, and they just go, whatever, moving on. The simple ability to care about something is extremely powerful, and at times it can be extremely underestimated. If you're working on something that you can honestly care less about, you wouldn't care about the finished result or what happens at the end of the day. You just want it done and over with. But if you work on something you're passionate about, if you commit yourself to working on something that you can care about 100%, then you'll be more willing to give it your all, to look at the finished product and gladly say, I did all that I could to make this the best thing possible. Positive trait about autism number 5. People with autism are not tied to social expectations. You ever look at someone with a really expensive sports car and think, oh man, I would look totally awesome in that car. I'd get a lot of chicks that way. Or maybe look at a certain game and think, oh man, a lot of people hate that game. For people like us with autism, that doesn't really matter. What matters is if we enjoy it, regardless of what people think about the certain video game or certain toy, or maybe watching a movie that a lot of people may absolutely despise. Outside opinions don't really matter. What matters at the end of the day is whether or not we enjoy it. That's it. Straight and simple. Unless if you're talking about food and whatnot, that's a separate subject entirely. Positive trait about autism number 6. People with autism have terrific memories. Now, this is probably one of the more obvious ones, or the ones that are more apparent. You often hear about how autistics have amazing memories and whatnot, being able to recall something from maybe many years ago or maybe more than a decade ago, or listening to a certain music piece from an anime series or a movie and being able to pinpoint which scene exactly did that music play in. Or maybe in my case, let's say on Wednesday, I was working a cashier job, and I can tell you which areas that I went to for that day. Let's see, first I went to self-checkout, then garden, then self-checkout, then back to garden, back to self-checkout, 15-minute break, lumber, self-checkout, lunch, lumber, then finally finishing up at self-checkout. All in that order. Yay me! Positive trait about autism number 7. People with autism are less materialistic. In other words, we're not really too worried about our outward appearance. We're not worried about what brands we wear or what hairstyles we use or what expensive accessory we wear in our hands in hopes of standing out a bit more. Doesn't really matter to us that much. We just care about who we are, not what we're wearing. Now, granted, this doesn't really apply to each and every single autistic person. Some may be more sensitive about their appearances than others. I am working on that. Positive trait about autism number 8. Autistic people play fewer head games. You've probably heard them before, the conversations that go, who is she? Or why are you looking at her? You seem to spend a lot of time with this particular person. Maybe you like that person a bit more than me. Ugh. Honestly, we just like to keep things short and simple. Why bother going on this emotional roller coaster full of complications and whatnot? We don't like playing those games, and we'd appreciate it if our friends wouldn't play that game either. It's just takes too much energy and it's not even worth it. Positive trait about autism number 9. Autistic people have fewer hidden agendas. This not only goes back to the concept of lying, or me sucking at lying for that matter, but most of the time we want our voices heard. If we want something, we just say, hey, I want that. No beating around the bush, no second guesses or mumbling or whatnot. We just say what we think, even if sometimes the things that we say are best kept hidden in our heads and whatnot. Now, don't get the wrong idea. Just because autistic people tend to voice out their opinions more rather than keeping it to themselves doesn't necessarily mean that they don't have any secrets whatsoever. Having secrets is just a basic part of human nature. It's not only because we struggle against each other sometimes, but sometimes there's just a certain thing that we're seeking, and maybe we don't want other people knowing about said thing. It's completely natural. We all have our fair share of secrets or private thoughts or certain skeletons lying in the closet. Whatever you do, do not look in the closet. And finally, positive trait about autism number 10. People with autism open new doors for neurotypicals. Because of the fact that we see things differently than neurotypicals, or may notice a few things that neurotypicals may just pass by, we tend to open the door to new possibilities and ideas that many people might not have even thought of before. Just because we are born with autism doesn't mean that we can't think on the same level as neurotypicals, or that our opinions don't really matter that much. We may be autistic, but we're also human, just like everybody else. And just because we think differently doesn't mean we can't think on the same level. In fact, sometimes thinking differently can open the door to new possibilities. Well, I'm going to go ahead and end the vlog here. Thank you very much for watching, ladies and gentlemen. If you like what you saw, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you know about any positive traits about autism that I may or may not have covered in this autism vlog, let me know in the comments down below. We can start up a discussion. Also, we are still looking for questions from dads for our upcoming special Question and A video, Dad Edition. So, dads who have autistic kids, if you have any questions, let us know. We'd be happy to hear them. So thank you very much for watching, ladies and gentlemen, and until the next video, see you later.